We are talking about equations of a circle, and the objectives are we want to write the equation of a circle, and we want to identify the center and radius from the equation of a circle. So the equation of a circle is based on the distance formula. Before we take notes on this, we will derive the standard equation of the circle from the distance formula. So here we have an example of a circle. We have the center at 5, 4. We have a point xy, and we have a radius of 7. And this point xy is actually going to be known as x sub 1, y sub 1. And our center point in this case is going to be known as x sub 2, y sub 2. So this is not new. These are things that we've seen before. So we did talk about it being derived from the distance formula, but the distance formula is derived from Pythagorean theorem. And Pythagorean theorem is c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Now, in order for Pythagorean theorem to work, we have to be dealing with a right triangle. And we can make this a right triangle by going horizontally in the x direction from the center, and then going straight down or vertically in the y direction. And in order for Pythagorean theorem to work, we have to have a right angle. So in Pythagorean theorem, our hypotenuse, or in this case our radius, is our c value. And then we have our a value. We'll have it be our x direction, and then our b value will be our y direction, or vertical. So we can see that these values translate to our Pythagorean theorem. Well, Pythagorean theorem we can also change to our distance formula, where our c value is our distance. So instead of saying c squared, we're going to say d squared. And these other values are going to stay the same. So the things that never change in the distance formula, we always have our two parentheses joined with addition. And in our distance formula, the base value for that middle sign in the parentheses is always subtraction. So let's take a look at our a value. Where does that come from? Our a value is our change in x, or the distance from x1 to x2 right here. So the way that we can substitute those values in, and we can say, the way that we'd figure that out, we say x1 minus x2, and that would give us this distance right here, or our a value. We could do the same thing with our b value. The distance from y2 right here to y1, that will be the length of side b. So we could say y1 minus y2. And now we can substitute some values in. So our d value, or our radius from the center to the side of the circle, is going to be 7. So we can say that that is 7 squared. Things that never change. We always have subtraction, addition, subtraction. So always the signs in the middle of the base formula, in the middle of the parentheses, are subtraction, and the sign between the parentheses is addition. So x sub 1 is going to be the point on the circle right here. So x sub 1, y sub 1. That's going to stay that variable there, x sub 1 and y sub 1. This value here for x sub 2, that is our center point, whatever our center value is. So we're just going to substitute that right in. We're going to have 5 for the x value and 4 for the y value. Notice I didn't include any signs or anything like that because the negative sign was already there. So this is the equation of this circle. So this is the equation of this circle. So that is the correct equation for that circle right there. Now, what are the important pieces of information that we can take from this circle that we can generalize for any circle? So the radius is going to be this value here that we square. So that's going to always just be our radius. That's going to be one value that we're looking for. And we're always going to have that value squared. The things that are never going to change, we always have the plus sign. We have two sets of parentheses that are squared. Those are never going to change. The sign in between the parentheses is going to be addition. And the sign in the middle of the parentheses is going to be the negative. So those are never going to change. We'll always have an x value that's on the circle and a y value that's on the circle. And then two things that we want to know are the center point, and the center point is going to be represented by h and k. So this is the general form of a circle. Notice there's only three things that change: the radius, the center, the x value of the center point, and the y value of the center point. The rest of the equation doesn't change. It's always parentheses x minus, parentheses squared, plus, parentheses minus, or y minus, parentheses squared. That never changes. There's only three things that change: the radius and the two coordinates of the center point. So we want to remember that r is the radius, and then we also want to remember that hk is the center point of the circle. These are the only things that change. So h comma k is the center point of the circle. So the standard form, and this one's written a little bit backwards, just change where the r is located, but it's x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r. And the only things that are going to be changing are the radius, the center point of the x, and the center point of the y. Everything else is going to stay the same. And we have those typed out right there.